welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the True Patriot Outfitters podcast. Happy holiday seasons if you're seeing this and we aired this around the holiday seasons. If not, if it's after the holiday season when we air this, hope you had an awesome holiday season. So, still stands no matter what. Tonight's episode being brought to you by Amped Outdoors. Lithium batteries, Amped Outdoors. You'll thank me later. Trust me, if quality means something to you, if supporting small business means something to you, if getting the best bang for your buck means something to you, and you want a company that is 100% behind their products and will take care of you should anything arise, go to Amped Outdoors, and that's your one-stop shop, and you're good to go, man. They're amazing products. I've been privy to see things behind the scenes with that organization, look inside the boxes of some of the biggest names and batteries out there. Through professionalism, we don't air it out, but I'll tell you, I've seen enough that really stamps home the reason why I love Amped and why I'm sticking with them through thick and thin. So give them a shot. You'll dig them. They support all the work we do here with the True Patriot Outfitters. All right, so let's get down to it, man. So 2023 with the Colorado Kayak Bassmasters was an amazing season, man. We've had other guests on here. We've had the Angler of the Year on, Mr. Strawbridge. We've had a couple of the state qualifiers. We've got by himself now, we're going to go ahead and bring him in, our 2023 state champion for the Colorado Kayak Bassmasters, Mr. Matt Arledge. What's happening, brother?
Hey, not much. That's still a little weird to hear state champion.
Right? I was expecting, I love the kids, love the little deer. I was expecting the big shield man behind you there sitting on the wall for state champ. You're allowed to hang that up now.
It's actually like right here.
Nice.
Nice. I did for a moment, the third place I ended up with at Norton. I replaced one of the kids' pictures at some point and hung it up there until someone noticed. Just to be funny, but
you thought it was funny.
Yeah. My wife actually appreciated it too. She has sense of humor. So.
Nice. Yeah, man. It was what a season, right? I mean, it was some ups and downs. Cool schedule. Looks like 24 is going to be a similar schedule. Strawbridge goes to great lengths. He and Flanagan, and you for that matter. I mean, the three of you guys kind of work, in concert there. You and Flanagan are more behind the scenes. Strawbridge is more in the camera view. But I mean, you guys put on a fantastic schedule, going to these fisheries at the right time. Short of Chatfield, the weather wanted to be a scumbag to us. Other than that, everything else, checked out, man. It was a ton of fun last season.
Yeah, I actually refused to fish Chatfield regardless. So that's just my standard, no matter what. So if we ever put a state championship there, I'll have to pass. But
what's at the heart of that? Is it just total disdain for the water, or what's up?
Yeah, I think it's just like everything I've ever heard about it is small fish. I know I've seen a couple of largemouth come out of there that are decent, but I was not looking to fight the weather in that one for sure. I was fully happy to judge that tournament behind the scenes, stay warm in my house.
Dude, it was miserable. I mean, it was one of the most miserable experiences. And it wasn't just the cold. It was the gear malfunctioning. You couldn't fish. I mean, your line was literally freezing. It was, it was that freaking cold where your gear's freezing up. You got to dip the tip of your rod in the water just to get the line to peel out. And a lot of guys tore up their gear. It was just, I've decided I'm at that age now. 10 years ago, I'd still be in. But I'm at that age now. If I see the weather's going to look like that, nah, dog, I'll probably sit in the truck with some hot cocoa and watch everybody else for a little bit, then go home.
I actually enjoy tournaments with bad weather, but not horrid weather. There's a line somewhere in there. But.
I feel you on that. I'm lucky enough to have Blackfish supporting us, and so I feel like I have a sound equipment to handle rough weather. it wasn't me that was the problem. It was, like I said, it was my gear. That's what the frustration came in. It's like, okay, I can't even take a drop shot and like sling it out there, because it just, I sling it and it just wraps around because the thing freezes immediately. Miserable stuff. Where did you end up? Shows you what kind of journalist I am. Where did you end up in AOI for the end of the year? Were you up in the hunt with that too?
Yeah, I shockingly ended up in third.
There you go.
That wasn't necessarily an intended pursuit of mine this year. I knew I was going to be limited on some of the tournaments I was fishing, but I think I ended up about 10 points behind our two top guys, Flanagan and Strawbridge, that tied. So I had some ground to make up if I had wanted to compete in that arena, but wasn't a terrible showing either.
That's awesome stuff, man. Yeah, I mean, on the year, we were just talking about this. I did an interview. It'll probably air a little bit after the first of the year. United States Army retired angler that fishes in our series, both the series CKB and CKFC, Nick Wetherill. And, Nick and I were talking about, one of the cool things, the best ways to describe, the CKB is that, the top 20 people in that enter, literally every one of these individuals has a shot at winning that event, man. There's just no fat in our roster. And so it's a lot to, it feels good when you place well, man. I mean, that's gotta be in there, knowing that knowing the other field that was out there where placing like that's, it's gotta be a good feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I think, either of these tournament groups, CKFC or CKB, when you beat out those folks and you're in the top five, then that's an accomplishment in itself. When it's a day of type tournament, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff. So yeah, man. So third place, AOI. And then, of course, the big one, the struggle bus that we all drove at Horsetooth, 2023. We were there in October. Is that? Yeah, October when we were there. Or was it September?
I feel like it was like the last weekend in September.
That could be. That could be. It was tough. It was tough, though. The water was not playing like it normally does. The fish were in kind of this weird little funk. Trying to determine where they were. I know I got a chance to pre-fish it a little bit. Yeah, I know you didn't. You didn't pre-fish that thing. You just were like, meh, I'll jump in and let's go do it. And maybe that was the key, is just go fish and you'll figure it out faster when you get in your head and start overthinking it. That's where the problem. But dude, the Arledge rig, I mean, that's what came out of this thing. You go and you pace the field there on freaking Horsetooth, a very tough bite. There were 30 some odd anglers and only 8-9 limits, something like that. I think was the number, somewhere in that ballpark. I could pull all this stuff up, but like I said, that takes a lot of extra effort.
Yeah, I pulled it up for you because I was kind of curious as you mentioned bringing me on here. I was kind of reviewing the year myself. There were actually only 3 limits in those.
3 limits. Yeah, out of 30 some odd anglers of solid anglers. This wasn't a rookie field out here. This is a state championship event. People had worked, all season to get into this thing. Yeah, man, that was hardcore. That was hardcore. And it was the little tricks that you pulled up there. I pulled out the Arledge rig when I was down at Pueblo, man, and it got me a couple fish. It worked out.
Did you put a bullet weight on the end of a drop shot?
I didn't have to go to that. I was prepared to, but I put I threaded a craw up on that little bad boy, a little tiny craw, threaded that up onto it. And I was ready. I actually had some Carolina weights. I was going to use barrel weights instead of bullet. I had some Carolina weights. I was just going to, tie up on those bad boys at the end of it and sling it out there. But I screwed around and bought more drop shot weights, man. So for those folks at home that don't know, the champ here ran out of drop shot weights midway through this event. And so he had to literally run what he brung. Explain that rig again, man, what you were doing there towards the end that, the rest of us are out there trying to fine tune our way, and you're MacGyvering your way to a state championship.
Yeah. So to be fair, I would have kept using drop shot weights because they're way easier to use. They get hung up. So we got I mean, that's Horsetooth. That's anywhere with rock. Pueblo is pretty similar, but ran out of drop shot weights because I think I brought 3 total drop shot weights, and I think Flanagan had some issues with that. But so I just tied a knot on a regular old Texas rig bullet weight type setup on the bottom of my drop shot. It actually ended up getting hung up less, so I don't know. I may go back that route, but I'm gonna kind of try both. Use the drop shot weights that I restocked on, and whatever bullet weights are in there as well.
I hear you. I hear you. The other cool thing is that you weren't nose hooking like a flatworm or a robo worm or anything like that. You were fully threading a craw bait for your drop shot deal there, right? I mean, you were like scooping it all the way up onto the thing as opposed to just nose hooking it.
Yeah, so I found a couple things that whether it's a craw or a minnow presentation, shad presentation, whatever the case is, threading it on there does a couple things for you. If you've got smaller fish nipping at your bait, because if I'm looking here, I had a 12-inch fish in my limit, so those tend to short strike things, and if you nose hook, you tend to miss more of them. So the further you can get that hook back in the bait, it helps. You don't necessarily get as much action potentially, but on a craw, you're really relying on the pinchers or flappers, or whatever you want to call them,
Right.
to move and not the whole bait. So threading it all the way in there tends to keep your lure, your soft plastic tied on a little bit better. You're not tearing them off when something short strikes, and they
Sure.
tend to eat it a little better.
Dude, and wasn't that the case that we were dealing with up there, man? The amount of 10-inch fish that guys and gals caught that day was unreal. I mean, that's all that we could find were these 10-inch smallies everywhere, it seemed like, for a lot of us out there. And it was, it was just, you could feel the shotgunning, on the bait when they grab a hold of it, you'd feel the head shake, and it was like, ugh, another one. So yeah, man, that was a hell of an adjustment, hell of
Yeah,
a
you get
read.
your than you. At least I do. You get all those short strikes, and finally you set the hook as hard as you can, and that little 6-inch fish goes launching out of the water past you. Okay, I'll try it right next time.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And that was actually before I got serious too about actually crunching down the size of line. I actually bit the bullet during the off season here, and I've now been testing out 6 and 8 pound test and actually understanding, using the right gear. Dude, you're not throwing a 6 pound test, at least I can't do it on a medium heavy, action rod. You're snapping line, you're breaking off, you're bending hooks, it's just like, yeah, okay, this is ignorant, and so yeah, I've got the right gear. I just didn't own any of that light tackle stuff. I'm used to pitching and flipping in hydrilla, so, and that's where my heart lies. I like that kind of fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of us do. I mean, I prefer a bait caster and 14, 15 pound test.
Yeah,
Throwing something moving, not throwing a drop shot for sure. But it's funny. For me, it's kind of compiling all the things you learn and remembering some of them, not necessarily from a past history perspective that can bite you. That this fish is going to be exactly here,
right.
but I think a year ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago, but similar time frame of the year, I took a buddy of mine out to Horsetooth, and we fished all day and caught all morning and caught 8 10-inch fish for quite a while. And at the very end, throwing Ned rigs, shad type presentations, etc. And at the end of the day, I finally ended up drop shotting a little tube, a max scent tube, and started just whacking them. And of course, I had to leave 30 minutes after I figured it out.
Right.
But use that thought process. Hey, this is a similar time of year. Let's try a similar type of setup. went with a craw instead of a tube, but still same type of presentation. And then jumping way back when I used to fish with Denver Bassmasters, I was fishing with a buddy at the Full Moon Open, and we were throwing, sounds silly, but throwing wacky rigs, kind of around those edges of the morning or evening, and was throwing it on 6-pound tests and snapping fish off. And it's James Francis. I don't know if you happen to know him. He's
Yep.
Big kayak guy, but he's like, no, you dummy, you need 8-pound tests. So you're going to snap off. Like 8's kind of that divider line between strong enough and small enough, at least for drop shot and wacky rig type stuff. And so that's what I used on my drop shot rig out there. That's what works for me.
And it cements home the thing that we try to teach all the new folks that are coming into this. When, in the age of social media, in the age of the internet, there's a lot of information out there with, the fancy titles, because that's what gets the videos to go viral. And that is the best secret, the best bait. This is the only thing you need, all these claims, but there is just no better teacher. Put down the phone, put down the PC, get on the water. Because when you're on the water, it's things like that you went out in an entire body of work for a day. You guys were catching mainly little dinks, but in the last 20 minutes, you gleaned one piece of information out of that showed the difference. 20, 30 minutes you had to leave. But that whole day of work, you discovered something there that now look, how many years later it comes back and bang. You can pull from that. It's those experiences, if you're paying attention to it when you're out on the water like that's where you learn things, that you build confidence in things because you know it, man. And so that's super cool, dude. That was, you were like a quarterback there reading the defense pretty much is what it boils down to. And you made an audible, that checked out, man. They didn't have the coverage for you on that, and you were able to get her completed. That's good stuff.
It was a fun tournament for sure.
So we complete that hard day. You take first place out of this deal. Then Flanagan right behind you there. And then Chenchar, state champion, Matt Arledge. That's fantastic to say. That's awesome stuff. Now you guys are looking forward. 2024 Bassmaster National Championship, arguably the biggest show in our sport right now. There's arguments that could be made for the Hobie TOC. To me personally, I think the national championship from Bassmaster is bigger just because it carries a more diverse field of anglers. That's my personal opinion to that. There's an allowance there for any and everybody inside the kayak world that can get in, that has a chance to qualify, and it's no joke to qualify. Across this whole deal. So you guys are going to Tenkiller, dude. How stoked are you for this thing, man? It's got to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's kind of funny because at the beginning of the year, I didn't necessarily have that as a target, but the nice part is, it's the closest classic I think Colorado will ever get, barring them doing something bonkers and going to Kansas or something like that they just haven't done.
Right.
And everything else is in South Carolina or Florida or wherever else. I was hopping into the tournament. I think Strawbridge had asked me at some point, well, if you qualify, you're going to go? I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to qualify. That was sort of in my brain. But the more you dig in, when you get those kind of opportunities, kind of like the All-American, the kind of that 12, 13-hour drive that you can survive in a day, and pull off, or take a nap and keep on trucking,
Yep.
Then you take as many of those opportunities as you can when you sort of have limited opportunities to qualify for them, especially this one, because it's a little more stringent to qualify. There's a whopping 3 of us that are going instead of potentially. And I love the All American, but there's a lot
Sure.
more qualifiers coming from Colorado. So
100%, dude. The All American, like Josh and I have said it time and time and time again, we're not a pro series. We love the idea that someone brought up to us, and this is something, we'll embrace wholeheartedly, is if anglers start looking at us like a AAA club, that this is kind of the pathway to the Bassmaster and Hobie. Totally cool with that, man. That's exactly, we're comfy in that. So it's not an open championship, the Classic is, but you still got to be top 10. This year it's top 15. But yeah, dude, when it comes to the qualification, piece, and knowing that in the national championship, this is the best of the best that's hanging out there. These are all anglers that can catch fish, various bodies of water. They've had to earn their way there. Super, super cool. So you and Flanagan and Chen, you guys got an Airbnb lined up? Is that how it's going to set up now?
we do. I actually, I'm an over planner when it comes to things like that.
That's what Chen said.
Yeah. The problem is if you get something that I don't really care about doing, then I'm a super under planner. My wife has some gripes about that. But, this type of thing, I kind of found a spot that was, you're sort of, it's tough to look at a lake you don't know. We fished Truman, for example, a couple times now. And so I know where I want my Airbnb to be because it's, I know the area of the lake I want to be at. With Tenkiller, it's kind of, let's pick somewhere that's reasonably close to Tulsa and, in the middle-ish of the lake to make sure that whatever you decide to do on tournament day, especially I think there's a total of 4 of us down there in the Airbnb that we could all go separate ways. So trying to pick a decent middle spot. So I think everywhere we drive on the lake, unless you do something really crazy, is about a 30-minute drive. So that's pretty palatable when you're trying to get up at 4 in the morning.
That's the ideal, in my personal opinion. Is if you're within that 30-minute window, that's the ideal. Ironically, my best performances have been when the ramps are like almost an hour away from where I'm staying. But I like that 30-minute. Just it gives you time to drink some coffee, get your mind right on your way to the ramp. Mentally go through your setup of the act to make sure you're getting everything right. It can hurt you sometimes if you wake right up, walk out, and bang, start putting your stuff in the water. It's like, okay, did I remember this? Did I remember that? Because you're still, clearing phlegm from the sleep before. So yeah,
I think
that's good stuff.
One year at the All American, I saw like light rain in the forecast, and I've lived in Missouri before, but my brain said Colorado rain. I'm like, I'll take my light rain jacket that's not really waterproof and some old rain pants. It was a bad move. So,
oops.
I lucked out, and it was a great finish that year, but I was sopping wet, just absolutely soaked. So I will always pack my rain gear when I go to Truman for sure, and definitely this year at Tenkiller because it's going to be late March or mid March kind of.
I was gonna say you're in Ozark country there for sure. So yeah, when they say rain, they mean it. So be prepared. That's awesome stuff, man. And speaking of that, Tenkiller, it's a kind of a unique body of water. There's lots of different things you can fish with it, but it does kind of have its, its reputation of what kind of how it sets up normally. Not to spill the juice or anything, but what are you thinking right now? Are you looking brown fish? Are you looking green fish? You thinking clean water? You thinking dirty water? Or just not 100% sure yet till you get there?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is not sure until I get there. I've never been on this body of water, so for anybody looking for some secrets, I don't have them.
Right.
All my research on the internet, is kind of what I'm relying on. It seems like from the videos I'm watching that the bigger fish that are being caught are smallmouth on a regular basis. And it could be area of the lake, time of the year that they're at. That could totally flip flop. I think there was a March kayak tournament of some kind down there, and I didn't check every single fish on the Tourney X deal, but every one that I looked at was a largemouth. So that thought process may have to change if you're shooting for smallies. But my understanding is, that lower end of the lake is a lot clearer water, down towards the dam and those kind of things. Probably where I'll start. I love cranking for smallmouth, largemouth, whatever. And that's, I think, a pretty standard thing down there. So gonna have to find a nuance there. I mean, you've got people like Mike McClellan, rock crawler type setup, wiggle wart. I think those are kind of my first thought process outside of a jerk bait or something like that.
And that clear water piece, that's real close to home too. That's pretty much what we have up here, right? Gene clear water, 15-foot visibility, ridiculous, at least is sometimes further, depending on how far the light wants to penetrate,
Yeah, 15 feet is 30 in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's got a stain to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's going to be I could see that being a good starting point, a basis to move from for sure. It does make it harder, and I mean I don't care where you're at. I mean northern smallmouth act a little different than Ozark smallmouth, but at the end of the day, smallmouth, dude, there's one common denominator across them, and that is they're nomadic as hell. One day you find them here at 12 o'clock and you come back at 3 and they're all gone. Not a trace of them, not a campfire left over. I mean, they've packed up the entire city and left, and it's like, what in the heck? So smallies are tough. We encountered that on the river, on the Mississippi River, a ton. It's like you can't 100% bank on, if you find a school of smallies that they're even going to be there the next morning. Who knows? You'll go there. You will. I mean, especially when you find a wolf pack of them. But yeah, so that's sounds like you've got it figured to the point of let it tell you where they're at when you get there. But
yeah, I mean, we're kind of talking in our group here on whether we might go down in January or February sometime, just kind of get a lay of the land. Don't know if I have the vacation time to make that happen, but at the very least, I think most of us are planning to drive down there the Saturday or Sunday before. Maybe I think Chen may be going down a week before, but use that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday as full practice of making sure you're finding fish, but not sticking fish all over the place. I find that to be pretty useful.
Now, I've found myself in the kayak game, I do this way more than I did in the boat world. But in the kayak realm, when I'm going to new bodies of water, I'll actually spend a good portion of one of my pre-fishing days just driving around and checking out ramps, right? I mean, not even on the water. I'm looking for areas that look like I've got some visual signs of stuff that I would enjoy, fishing. Do you find yourself doing that with new bodies of water?
Yeah, I mean, Truman's probably the best example at the All-American because I did that. So first year when we went out there, I lived in Missouri for a while, but it was on the east side. So had actually never fished Truman. I'd fished Lake of the Ozarks before, but
very different. Very different.
Hadn't really gotten out to this lake. And so first time I was out there, I'm trying to bounce ramps and just find a little something. I actually found the area that first year I was out there with Josh Hines. It's kind of, we bumped into each other, ended up the same spot. We caught a few good fish and said, okay, like, we're not catching them anywhere else. It was a tough tournament. And so stuck to that area and did okay. I was 26th or 27th, something like that, out of 160 people. And then, next year went back, had a little bit more info. Jeff Caldwell, who does some guiding. He used to live out there, so used some info from him. Found a couple different areas, and then kind of expanded on it. But really, you're bouncing ramp to ramp, mostly to find what I find a struggle on some of those lakes is you don't know if it's public access.
Yeah.
In a tournament like that, you don't want to risk doing something illegal because you're doing it out of ignorance.
Yep.
If I not to make light of the local tournaments, but if you screw up a local tournament, you're not out $10,000.
I was going to say it's not a shot at 10 grand or second place $5,000. I mean, that's paying for the trip, man, and then some.
So yeah, I make sure, unlike going to a little local pond, I make sure I'm reading all the signs, making sure that access is appropriate, making sure that something's open, etc. Making sure
if you need a park pass, get a park pass type
right.
thing. Yeah.
Fish a dock or not fish a dock. Make sure you're keeping receipts if you have to pay for those things, so no one can call into question. I mean, it sounds a little silly, but those are the things I think about to make sure that you're sort of beyond reproach, so that you're not getting. You're intentionally trying to do everything by the book on those tournaments, so you have to research your access points.
That's to me, bro. That's a tournament angler. That's a responsible tournament angler doing their job. I mean, we're not here to impose ourselves on a body of water. We want to play by all the rules, conserve the water we're on, respect the community that we're fishing in, because we want to come back and do it again. So yeah, brother, that's 100%. That's how you do it. All you guys that are new to stuff, listen, this is how you do it. That's how you help our sport. That's how you don't black eye the club or the series or just anglers in general, kayak anglers. Because they don't see faces and details, man. They see a kayak and a dude slinging a fishing lure around. So that's awesome stuff. And Truman, man, that's legit. Because there's some sneaky little dirt roads that lead to a creek ravine that you can launch from. You're not sure if you should be or not, though. For sure.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on that one. That's sort of paid off because we've kept it at the same lake. So finding a little different access points to get you a little closer. I think the biggest thing for me, because I don't ever put a motor on my kayak, is access becomes even more critical.
Yeah.
So at Truman, there was a good area that I was looking at, and realized that, I thought I found this way out of the way. And then on tournament day, there's 10 other trucks pulled up beside you.
Yep.
So everybody knows about this. And so it's either finding the nuances or finding a little different access to get somewhere first. So one good example of that, we had the qualifier out there. There was one year where they did I feel like it was a qualifier in October when they shifted from October to April.
Yep.
And so went out there for the qualifier because that year I wasn't able to fish a lot of local tournaments and qualify. And a guy and I showed up, and I knew that I didn't necessarily have a shot at first place, and all I needed to be was in the top half of the field. So whether I ended up fifth or sixth wasn't or fourth wasn't a major concern to me.
Right.
Both headed to this specific cove, and I said, "No, you were there yesterday. You got it. I'll kind of dance around, and that is where I want to go, but no biggie." And got done with the day, and he said, "Man, and everybody big eyes fish, but he said he lost 3 fish that were 18 plus." Okay, well, my brain at least was thinking correctly. Had it been second day of the tournament where I was leading, I've been making sure I figured out access to that a lot differently than just, let's figure out who can fish it. I'm going to make sure I'm there first.
Yeah. No, I did. I had a similar experience a couple of years ago. My first ever kayak classic. I went to this one little area that was kind of off. It's hard to see it on a map unless you know what you're looking for. And I get into this area, and there's one other guy in there fishing. There's room enough for two as long as we split the distance, between us. You can kind of go through your rotation around the area. And I'm sitting there, and I guess it's about, we're fishing, and he's doing really well, and I'm over there driving the struggle bus. Um, and I look at the standings, and I'm like, wow, okay. Well, then the guy, he gets a little bit closer to him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know him, and he's actually leading right now, type thing. So, make a long story short, we have a little quick conversation. I'm like, brother, I'm going to check out of here and give you this, and I'm just going to go to the entrance of this little area, and I'm going to fish around that. And he's like, you don't have to do that. I'm like, no, seriously, dude, you got a shot at this thing, man. I'm going to get the hell out of your way, and it comes back. It's reciprocal. It comes back around. So yeah, but what I took from it's just what you said, which was, okay, this guy lives around here. He knows this water. He chose this place. This is my first time at this body of water. Second time I've had a kayak on the water, and I chose this place. So my gut's telling me the right things. You can take from that. You can build some confidence that trust that first instinct when you see it, type thing.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is, as I was kind of digging into Tenkiller, is it's not obviously tied to Truman. Well, not directly. Maybe there's some water flow I'm unaware of. But it's in the similar vein of, sort of that Grand Lake, Tenkiller, Truman, that there's some level of, it's a river system that, we have inflow in Colorado, but it's not the same.
Nope.
When it rains, there was one time when it rained at Truman, where it was heavy enough that there was water inflow. And so I was like, heck, everything I know about water inflow says fish should be stacking up in there. It may not be the right size fish, but I was struggling to catch something at that time. So, go move to the water flow. And lo and behold, caught fish in that water flow. And so growing up in Missouri, fished a lot of river systems, just walking them, or probably better said is crick.
Yeah, right, right. There's a lot of them out there.
Fish. Yeah, but I think, we don't get that opportunity in Colorado a lot. The ones that do have river systems are trout centered, and so it just doesn't set up in my brain the same. So my thought process should be that it should be a similar setup, in that you need to pay attention to channel swings. You need to pay attention to inlet outlet type stuff. And so hopefully that plays a Tenkiller, sort of TBD.
I think you're 100% on it, man. I mean, something that I was reminded of is, keep in mind, Grand, Tenkiller, these in here, these are all Ozark lakes, man. You're still in the Ozarks there. They might be a different flavor of the Ozark lakes, but it's for sure still in the Ozark country. And so you're going to have, some similarities in play there. And speaking of, like, last year, dude, at the All-American at Truman, if Flanagan and I were trying to remember this, weren't you leading at the end of day one, bro? I mean, you went down there and put on a show. That was fantastic. Yeah,
the downside was after day two, I ended up in 50th. So,
well, we're not going to talk about day two.
Yeah. So, it's actually kind of funny. So, having won the state championship this year, my brain sort of forgets about the All-American. But if I look back at how I finished, and I might be off on this by a spot or two, but first year we went out there and I ended up 26, 27, something like that, with literally zero info. I mean, I did go out there with James Francis and Jim Strawbridge, and kind of, it's a big lake, so we broke down different areas of the lake and kind of reported back about generally what was happening. In the end, we each ended up sticking to our own areas and didn't, follow up on anybody. But 26th, the next year I went back with info from Jeff, and obviously dude knows what he's doing. But still, even diverted a little bit from what was happening there. Ended up fifth. And so was pretty stoked that out of 160, 170, that cashed a check. And I think I was like
a good check.
Quarter an inch away from a trophy. And then came back for the qualifier that year in the next October. Yeah, I think it's next October. Ended up sixth out of 60th. And the goal on that one, again, was to be top half. And then came back and this past April kind of found a little bit different spot. And it's always like small keys there that you pick up on.
Right.
The one year I was fifth, it was Caleb Zimmer that works at Shields had keyed me onto a bait that he loved, used it in Colorado right before that tournament, like whacked the biggest fish that I'd whacked in a while on that lure. And then went out to Truman, used that, caught some fish, made a color change when the weather got bad, and then suddenly, same lure but color change, and that turned the day around there. This past April, the first day, the trick was, I was keeling them in practice. Now I put a hook cover on, but was catching fish, not hooking or landing them, but getting bit. Like it felt like every cast. So I said, okay, like I'm going here. I haven't hooked any fish. They should be biting. And like first hour and a half, like nothing. Didn't know what was going on. And I don't remember which one was my first one, but switched it up a little bit. Went to throw in a small swim bait and hooked a good fish. And I thought, okay, I can't waste a good fish. I think that first one was like 20 something inches.
Wow.
I went further back and found a little cut, and literally on opposite sides of this cut that you can sit in the middle and pitch to both sides. I caught an 18 on one side and an 18 on the other. And I think with like 45 seconds left, upgraded on the first day. And you know how that goes with 45 seconds left. You've got to get the picture taken before 2:00. It's not just land this fish. It's get it taken, make sure it's the right length, make sure you didn't do anything dumb, your identifiers in the picture, all that. And so I think 45 seconds left, had caught that fish and bumped me up to where I was in first place. So second day, went back out there, knowing that I lost a fish that was at least 16. It hopped out of the water. I knew where it was. I knew it was spawning. Knew I could go back and catch that one. And knew that there were some other fish in that area that I hadn't, fully, fished out. So I think second day, caught my first fish. I think it was on my second cast because it was set up on a tree, and I was like, I need to go left side and right side. And I think second cast hooked and landed that fish. So
nice.
30 seconds in, had a good 16-inch fish. Spun around to a different area because I guess I had fished that out more than I meant to. I think I hooked the 16 and snagged my lure on a tree, went up to go get it out. The fish literally jumped out of the water, landed on a log in front of me, and then flopped back in the water. So it was like, giving me the middle fin.
Yep, the middle fin. Love it.
So it's tough. I kind of expanded on my area. I think, second day I had, I'm going to look it up now on where I ended up, but let's see. Had 4 total fish. I think if I had caught a qualifying fish, I would have been top 10.
Wow.
If I had caught a 16-incher, I would have been like top 3 or 4.
Yep.
And
you're right there.
If I had ended up with, like, at the end of the day, like probably 15 minutes left, I had hooked what was for sure an 18-inch plus and just lure came right out of its mouth, trying to get it out of a tree, and I yelled some bad words, and I try not to do that, but man, it was knowing that I had lost 10 grand and had to drive back to Colorado. Um, I think I even hooked earlier that day. I hooked an 11.75, and it's got to be 12-inch minimum, and I just like
Yeah.
couldn't squish it with a rolling pin to make it 12. And
to me, it's the one true, people talk about, long drives, how it's a pain, da, da, da. I like actually getting on the open road, especially going to the tournament. There's a therapy there for me, right? I talk to myself a lot. I record some content. I listen to audiobooks, I make some serious good business decisions on the road. Take in the sights that, and I try to remind myself how grateful, I am to be able to do this, full time. The downside though, brother, is what you just talked about. When something takes place that you got to drive all the way back and it's going to dominate your thoughts the entire time. I have recorded so many things that I was going to use as a recap or whatever that I just end up deleting because it's like, dude, I'm not going to be that guy, because I'm so freaking disgruntled, or whatever, and I've learned over the years that it's a mental game and I can shake off listening to fools from the outside that talk, thinking they know what's going on with the sport. I've had guys basically, dude, why are you doing this? You're not placing very well. You're not doing very well at all, in all honesty. So why are you doing this? And I've heard that. I've even had people, what, you think you're some kind of stick, type. I've heard that has been told to me before. And I sit back and, like I said, I've been around long enough to know that you guys need time. You need time to spend in this sport here, because for me, it's about how did I fish for where I'm at in this. I'm not going against you. I'm not going against another angler. I'm fishing for my well-being in my head to know that I did what I could do, and I made the right decisions based on this and this. But man, when you hit something like a fish coming unpinned, like you talked about, or something that, gosh, what could I have done different to save that type thing? That long drive back, man, that can really get in a guy's head. And yeah, you invent cuss words, man. You'll come up with some new ones that Yosemite Sam would be proud of, right?
Yeah, I wasn't proud of myself. For sure. It's a very frustrating moment. I lost that fish and just knew, and after having lost or broken off a fish here or there, it was just accumulation of frustration. There was, I think, a couple of guys in a boat in front of me. I don't know what they thought, but I'm sure they thought I was a goofball. There was another kayaker in that cove that maybe understood, but probably didn't appreciate it. It's what it is. It's actually it's funny to think about now. Like it was probably one of the more frustrating moments that I've ever experienced, because there was outside of serious life situations.
Right. We're talking tournament fishing. Yeah.
But it was like you had this opportunity in front of you. You were leading. I didn't have the thought process of, I want to be in second, so I'm catching the guy ahead of me. No, I wanted to, smack fish.
Right.
And it was a great feeling that first day. I had everybody calling, etc. And I was like trying to ignore it and just focus on what I was doing. And did all the things I should have done, changed out line, changed out hooks, like everything I could reasonably control, I did right. And looking back on that after however many months it's been, it feels okay to say that now. But I called my wife and was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's so deflating.
I am putting my gear on Marketplace and taking up competitive ping pong. That's what I'm doing.
It took a while to get through that one. I think as you realize, the nice part is there were a lot of people rooting for someone from Colorado. It wasn't necessarily me. It was someone from Colorado. And if I
Yeah.
look back at the first year that I started fishing at CKFC, there's a lot of encouragement. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing you can get out of this club, or really any tournament circuit you do. But yeah, we're all competing to win, and I'm sure there's some people that are more cutthroat than other people.
Yeah.
But when I
I,
talk to Strawbridge or Flanagan or James Francis or the other or Alex Rojas,
yep.
we've shared enough information that it's kind of like, hey, here's what's happening, or hey, I'm struggling. Like, what's what's
Yeah.
going on? What am I missing? What are you doing differently? And it's not necessarily day of the tournament, but more, sort of that follow up. And I think as you piece together all of this information, it starts making these things more fun. You start learning more. I
Well,
have just as much fun whacking fish in a pond as I do, on tournament day. There's a little more on the line,
sure.
but it's nice to learn those things.
Well, and I mean, isn't that the key, right? You do this long enough, you realize that nobody's going to be able to give you, stop asking for, magic bullets, because they're just not
Mhm.
out there. Okay. This sport doesn't allow for that. But if you're smart and if you're patient and if you're wise and if you listen, you learn to be a good listener. You take little bits from all these good resources, know your resources of who's telling you what. And you just named like an encyclopedia of knowledge there in the guys. I'd throw another one in there like Eric Ali. And Eric and Leslie, those two, the knowledge they spend so much of their life on the water, 24/7, 365, that if they're willing to share some information with you, about some, you can pick little things and you'll formulate out of all those little bits of information what works best for you, in a given situation. But there's no silver bullet type piece out there. So that's awesome stuff, man. Appreciate you sharing that, your wisdom with this. How long have you been kayak fishing, man?
Oh goodness. I'm trying to think when I started back up again. I feel like it would have been 2016,
Yeah.
17, somewhere in that ballpark. The downside is, I think CKFC for a while there, the first year, and then the year that I was on the board, or the couple of years there, we weren't on Tourney X. So I'd have to look back, but
Yeah.
we were still like turning in pictures on a phone or a camera and a paper card. And
That
so,
speaks volumes, man. That dates it right there. How long ago that was.
yeah.
That's so awesome.
So it's been a minute. I mean, I did, Denver Bassmasters back in, I don't remember, 2013 type time frame or before. So
From the boat
I've
side.
been around. Yeah, I've been around fishing quite a bit. Grew up doing it, but kayak tournament stuff feels like relatively recently. But uh, you know, I
You're
think
an
I only
OG,
really
man.
started last year.
Yeah, I was going to say
Let's
you're an
not go
OG.
that far.
You're an OG, definitely, at least in Colorado for sure, brother. I mean, you're one of the guys that helped put this sport on the map for this state, and helped the CKFC establish to what it is today, and has 100% been a major player in what's made the CKB such an awesome second club in the state. Um, and keeping it competitive out there. I've now had the opportunity to be behind the scenes and judge, so I have mad respect for what we're able to do. I had an opportunity to actually judge one of the CKB events that I couldn't make this year, the Norton event. And that was my first time. I knew what I'm looking for and I had my laundry list. I did most of it at my PC here, that you see. So I had I have a pair of 24, 26, something like that, inch monitors that are sitting in front of me. And so, yeah, I was using that really, zooming in on this stuff, looking closely and making sure things are clean. And so mad respect there for you guys, and all the stuff. People don't realize that you're one of those guys that's behind the scenes, really making a lot of this stuff come together. And you have a plethora of knowledge, dude. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. Truman's the only event this year. Now, keep in mind, the Classic is 100% separate from the series. The Classic is something we do that it carries our name with the All American, but it's completely separate. The series is its own, with its own championship and such. Um, But the Classic is the only event with the All-American name and group around it that I'm going to be able to fish as a competitor. So we've got a different guy coming in to take the director role and the MC role of that. Josh, of course, is remaining, behind the scenes as far as the judging and such, and he has help with judges that he can bring in if needs be. But yeah, so I'm stoked, man, for when we all get a chance to get down there um, and partake in this. This year I'm staying at the Bucksaw Resort. They're our host for this event. They're going to be our host hotel and campground for the Classic. So Bucksaw Resort, that's where I'm going to be staying this season when I get down there. So it's going to open up a lot of the lake where I can get to some areas, because I've said I'm fishing a new section of this lake that I've never fished before, just because the last few times I've kind of been in similar areas. So now I'm going to go completely opposite and just go see what I can find out there.
Yeah, I mean, the nice part of that lake, I think, is you can find a bunch of different stuff that suits you.
Yeah.
There's kind of 4 major arms. I'm thinking about that, right? But that you can navigate through. I mean, I've got my Airbnb set up already with that one. So there's the over planning, but
last question. Chen said, I wanted to just let you know, I don't know if you saw Chen's interview when we had him on here. Yeah. So Chen had made mention of that it's like he felt like he was driving home from the state championship. You already had an Airbnb. You had things locked up. He's like, dude, that guy was so fast on stuff. He goes, that taught me so much about this. And I'm like, yeah, man. I was like, I feel that. I'm a planner myself. I do not like when things get changed up on me, and I like to have certain things in place so I can start focusing elsewhere. Last question I have for you. How do you balance this? And guys that are out there that fish in multiple series or regionally, locally, nationally, whatever, pay attention to this, because I'm curious about this too. How do you balance? You've got like the Classic, that's coming, and we know where it places, but then you got the national championship. The trick in this is you have knowledge of Truman, right? And you got to feel good about your chances going there and just, making a few minor tweaks. But now we got the national championship for bass as a place you've never been, but arguably that is a way bigger event than it's up there, because what comes out of if you place well here and do well. A lot of doors are going to open up, a lot of opportunities start to fly, with that kind of stuff. How do you balance that, bro? Knowing that they're like within a month of each other, type thing. How do you balance your priorities like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, my focus at the moment, having fished Truman now 4 times or whatever, is really to kind of sit on Tenkiller and let that marinate and figure those things out and sort of focus on that. And I don't come to Truman with a sort of, or I hope I don't, with an ego of saying, I've already fished this. I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to put any time into it. I'm coming to it with less practice on the front end, in the sense that it's probably Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for Tenkiller. The time before, I just find that if I spend forever out on a lake, that I enjoy fishing, but fishing the same lake for a week straight just feels like overkill to me.
100% with you on that.
Yeah, I'm sure there was something I'd figure out, and I don't have it cut out to be an elite series angler. I don't think that's my one from a skill set time perspective, but just I enjoy fishing, and that there's sort of this break, and so it feels like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is going to be a lot of time to check out the various boat ramps, figure out enough to kind of keep trekking through on Wednesday, Thursday, and I may or may not figure it out, but that seems to be an appropriate timeline. On Truman, I think I'm showing up such that I fish maybe a day and sort of hit 2 or 3 spots and say, is this working? If it's not, what am I falling back onto on tournament day? And so that's really how I'm balancing that one out, is once Tenkiller ends, if I win it, then I'll for sure fish the Classic. If I finish dead last, then I may reevaluate my life and think about things. But just trying to keep
really reflect on my choices.
Yeah, just keep it compartmentalized because there's still, basically a month and a half between those two events. So honestly, anything you want to study, in a month and a half, that's plenty of time for, especially somewhere you've been before.
True that. Well, listen, man, I can say hands down the things that I've learned about you and had a chance to fish with you out there in these and chat with you. It's your mental game that separates you, brother. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You've got a plethora of experience, but it's your mental game, how you approach these things, your demeanor. That's what, in my mind, makes you such a strong competitive angler out there. Is that you've got a couple it factors, man, that really are needed to put away the emotional side of certain things. Or at least you hide them really well. I haven't been in a cove with you when you lose a fish. So, that's the thing that I take, even as an old guy in this, this deal, watching you out there. It's impressive to watch you work, man. And we are so stoked here to know that you, Matt Flanagan, and Chenchar are going off to represent the state of Colorado in the national championship. It's going to be exciting. And my biggest hope and wish for you guys is just go be you. Don't let the stage or the event change, your approach. Approach it like you would approach freaking Horsetooth or any other body of water out there, and just go be yourselves and enjoy the experience and have fun with it, man. Because it's you got an entire state rooting for you guys out here. I know that, regardless of club affiliation, everybody's going to be cheering for you guys.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the most fun part about these national events. When we go fish Norton or Red Willow or Horsetooth, I'm not really rooting for anybody else besides myself because we're all from Colorado.
Right.
I guess there's a few Nebraska people that sneak in or whatever, but it's just kind of how those tournaments go. Yeah, I'm stoked when people do well and those kind of things. It's not a jealousy factor. But these bigger events, the nice part is if Flanagan or Chenchar won the tournament, I think I would be just as stoked for them.
Right.
At the very least, pretty dang excited that someone from Colorado sort of has that recognition. The nice part, we're going to be feeding each other information because we're all, relatively speaking, pretty ignorant about this body of water. It'll be nice. I enjoy that sort of team aspect of, we're not all going to go camp on the same spot because that's not effective, but sort of helping each other out. And
well, it's in the practice leading up, right? You guys can help each other with breaking water down and so forth. Once the bell rings and everything goes, it's a different story. But once you're leading up to it, it gives you a good idea of what's going on out there and kind of where you're at in the big scheme of things.
Yeah, or if we zero on the first day, that we turn around and do the exact opposite, or
right. Whatever you did day one, flip it.
So I think one of us at some point will figure something out enough to do decent.
Oh yeah,
it's tough to promise first place because there's a little bit of luck that goes into breaking the difference between a top 5 and a first place. So hopefully one of us gets to stand on stage with the top 10. That would be that'd be epic for our first kind of major send of more than one person.
Right, for sure. Yeah, man, that's exciting. Well, listen, brother, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day here. It's leading up to the Christmas season. This episode will probably be airing on Christmas or a little bit close to it. I think it's going to be, we've got Flanagan that's coming up this next Monday, and then yours is going to go right the next Monday right after that. If Christmas is on a Monday, I might roll it to Tuesday just to kind of back off to give folks an extra, that way they don't have to worry about it. But one way or another, we will for sure. This will be aired before the end of the year here. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on here and chat with us. And just know, man, we got you back, and we're going to be cheering the whole way. Regardless of what happens, we'll have a parade. We'll have something.
Hopefully we just do a follow up, and one of the 3 of us has done some damage out there, and then maybe we'll win the team version or the team portion of the All-American, and we'll rock it right through.
Hell yeah. No, we plan to. I want to have the three of you guys on before you head off to Tenkiller. We'll do that. We'll reconvene there before you guys head off, and then when you're all done, we'll have you guys come back on and we'll talk then again and kind of go over what you guys went through, and then then we start that build up to the classic where we can start some crap talking, and team wise, heck yeah.
Well, and hopefully at the Bass tournament, I mean, another piece that we didn't really talk about is the big stoke factor on the back end of this is I'm staying through that Friday at the very least when the actual the boat version of the classic takes off. And you get to go to the I'm losing my mind
expo
at the moment, but
it's the expo.
Thank you.
Yep.
Get to go to the expo and chat with people like Rick Clunn and Jacob Wheeler, and I don't know who else could be there, but those type of events are just awesome to me. That ignoring the fishing, which I will be fully focused on, when you get past that, it's pretty cool that regardless of how you do, that you get to end up sort of hanging out in this environment. And,
I'm trying to get that. We're trying to get that in the budget. I want to do that. My game plan would be to arrive there literally Thursday evening. So right when you guys conclude the kayak side of the championship, because I want to be there for Friday, Saturday, and then probably fly back Sunday. I'm going to, my game plan is to fly into Tulsa, take a bus or a shuttle or something over to the expo, stay relatively close to that at a hotel somewhere, and just kind of spend. So if we can get that into budget, I'll have to hit you guys up, because that would be cool to connect with you at the expo. Like you said, that's it's a thing to bring in. I actually took in Red Crest in 2019, and that was an amazing event to be at. The people you get to meet, the information they share with you, and super cool to be at one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So. All right, brother. Well, thank you so very much, man. We appreciate it. Stick with me here after we roll out, and we'll wrap this up here. Folks at home, make sure to smash that subscribe button for us here. Keep watching on the TPO. Check out Colorado Kayak Bassmasters. You'll see our state champ, Mr. Matt Arledge there. You'll see any information we have leading up to that. And of course, likes, subscribes. YouTube is the big one for us these days, folks. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and tell your friends about that subscribe button. All it just means you'll get a little notification when we have new content rolling out there. That's all it means. And it's a huge help for us here with the podcast for sure. It is as good as sending a donation into us, to be honest with you. So smash that subscribe. Let us know that you're following. That's a huge deal. As always, folks, we appreciate all the love and support. Thank you, Matt, again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tight lines, folks, and be safe.